Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. When Ray Montgomery came home after a brutal 12-hour shift, he expected a beer, not a barricade. What he found instead was a fake utility debt, a rogue HOA, and a war he never asked for. But if they thought he'd back down quietly, they were dead wrong. This is how a working man fought back. I just wrapped up a 12-hour HVAC install in the middle of damn July. Roof work, ductwork, and not a single decent breeze all day. I was running on gas station coffee and spite by the time I pulled onto Mill Creek Road. All I wanted was a hot shower, a cold beer, and my recliner. Instead, I got a damn barricade. At first, I thought maybe the county was doing a road work again. Wouldn't be the first time they ripped up asphalt for no reason. But as I rolled closer, I noticed the orange cones weren't county issued. These had the Lake Crest Reserve HOA logo slapped right on them, shiny and proud like someone thought they were the Department of Homeland Security. A pair of meatheads in neon vests stood in front of a makeshift metal gate like they were guarding a nuclear facility. One was chewing gum like it owed him money. The other had mirrored sunglasses and a clipboard. The third guy, skinnier, twitchy, leaned against an orange plastic barricade, scrolling on his phone like he was waiting for someone to film a TikTok confrontation. I slowed to a crawl and rolled my window down. "You lost or something?" I asked, trying to keep it light. The clipboard guy stepped forward like I was some kind of intruder. "Sir, this road is temporarily restricted. Lake Crest Reserve Homeowners Association has enacted a utility enforcement perimeter." "Utility, what now?" He cleared his throat like he'd rehearsed this in a mirror. "You're on the list. Raymond Montgomery, correct? You've got an outstanding balance of $10,432.17 for unauthorized use of Lake Crest Reserve electrical infrastructure." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "You're shitting me." He didn't blink. "Until the balance is cleared, this entrance is closed to all residents on the list. Now, here's the thing. My house is not part of Lake Crest. Never was. My dad built it in the 90s when this area was nothing but woods, gravel roads, and coyotes. I paid Duke Energy directly. I've got the bills to prove it. But this prick with the clipboard, he looked like he'd just declared martial law on my driveway. "Buddy, you're 2 driveways away from a lawsuit. This is county road. You can't block this." He gave me a smug little shrug. "The map says otherwise. According to our revised boundary utility plan, your residence shares infrastructure with Lake Crest Reserve. You're accessing power lines we maintain. So, payments due." I felt heat crawling up my neck. "I don't owe you jack shit. Get out of the way." At that, Gum Chewer stepped forward. "Sir, if you attempt to cross the barrier, we will have to escalate." "Escalate," I barked. "You got a damn missile silo back there?" The guy in sunglasses put his hand on the side mirror like that meant something. "We'll have to call authorities." I slapped his hand away. That's when the twitchy guy, phone still in hand, muttered, "This dude's aggressive. Should we—" And then, like out of a damn movie, I heard tires screech. A dusty black Dodge Ram came whipping around the bend, damn near on 2 wheels, and skidded to a stop behind me. U.S. Marine Corps bumper sticker. I didn't even need to look. Only one man in the neighborhood drove like that and lived to talk about it. Wayne Spencer. The door creaked open, and out stepped a man built like a fridge that spent 10 years bench-pressing artillery. He was wearing a sleeveless flannel cargo shorts and the expression of a man who just found dog shit on his porch. "Something wrong here, Ray," he said, loud enough to cut through the tension. I nodded toward the HOA cosplay convention. "These clowns say I owe 10 grand for power lines I don't use." Wayne walked forward slowly, arms at his sides, calm like a guy checking his mailbox. "You boys work for Duke?" he asked, nodding at their vests. "No, sir," Clipboard said. "We're private enforcement under contract with—" Wayne didn't wait. His fist cracked into the guy's gut so fast I didn't even catch the windup. Clipboard folded like a card table. Gum Chewer lunged, but Wayne pivoted and swept his leg, sending him flat on his ass. Twitchy phone guy screamed something unintelligible and took off running down the ditch, nearly losing his shoe. Wayne didn't bother chasing. He just leaned down and yanked the barrier aside with one hand like it was made of tissue. "Let's go," he said to me, getting back in his truck like it was a Tuesday. I rolled forward, still stunned, and gave Clipboard one last glance as he wheezed on the ground, fetal and humiliated. When we pulled into my driveway, Wayne parked next to me and got out with a smirk. "You know they're going to come back with lawyers instead of morons next time." "I hope so," I said, slamming my truck door. I'm better with paperwork than punches. He nodded. Good, 'cause I think this little HOA ward just fired its first shot. 2 days later, I got a letter. Not the regular kind with a windowed envelope and a bill inside. No, this was hand-delivered and stapled like it was the 10 damn commandments. It had the Lake Crest Reserve HOA logo on top and an official-sounding title, Notice of Utility Enforcement and Network Reclassification. That would have been funny if it wasn't so insane. Inside, they claimed that due to a recent infrastructure audit, my home, and apparently 7 others on the east side of our block, had been reassigned to their electrical grid. According to their engineers' findings, our power was technically derived from infrastructure maintained by Lake Crest Reserve, and as such, we now owed back payment for usage spanning 3 years. 3 years. I nearly choked on my coffee. Attached was an itemized bill, broken down like I'd just rented a yacht instead of cooled my trailer in July. There was even a service fee for unreported access to utility conduits. Whatever the hell that meant. I called Duke Energy immediately. The woman on the line was patient, southern, and polite. The kind that says sugar even when she's reading you a disconnection notice. After giving her my account info, she confirmed, "No, Mr. Montgomery, your service is direct. Always has been. Meter ID matches your property. We maintain the lines." Any claim otherwise would be, well, false. I asked if there was any scenario in which a private HOA could legally override Duke Energy's infrastructure or reassign access. She laughed. Out loud, "I think someone's trying to bluff you, sugar." That's when it really clicked. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a goddamn shakedown. I called Wayne and told him what was going on. By the time I finished, he was already walking over with a clipboard of his own. "You're not the only one, Ray," he said, flipping it around. "Tommy down on 5th got one of these. So did Melanie. Even the Garcias. That's 14 houses they're targeting." I nodded. "How are they choosing people?" He tapped the edge of the paper. "Geography. All of us back up to Lake Crest's eastern fence. They're trying to expand." "By extortion?" Wayne shrugged. What's HOA without a little tyranny? I decided it was time to talk to the neighbors. Wayne and I spent the next day walking door to door, listening to stories that were more absurd by the minute. Tommy, a 70-year-old diabetic, had already paid part of his bill after they threatened to shut off power to his oxygen machine. He showed us the receipt. It was from some LLC registered under a different name, Blue Birch Utility Compliance. Guess who's the listed owner? Richard Milton, husband of Karen Milton, president of the Lake Crest HOA. It got worse. The Garcias had cameras, good ones. 2 days prior, someone in a white truck had parked outside their gate, climbed the utility pole at the corner, and spent 15 minutes inspecting it. No markings, no city permit on the truck, just a reflective vest and a ladder. I took one look and recognized the guy. He was one of the dudes from the barricade. Clipboard boy. I felt something burning in my chest that had nothing to do with heat or anger. It was principle. They weren't just harassing us. They were tricking the elderly, faking audits, impersonating utility workers, and trying to legally absorb our homes into their profit machine, one made-up audit at a time. Wayne cracked his knuckles. "You know what they say, Ray. Once is arrogance. Twice is policy." We didn't call the police. Not yet. We wanted more. We went back to my place, pulled out a crate of old paperwork my dad had kept since the 90s. There it was. Black and white documentation of our neighborhood's transition to direct state-regulated utilities, with signed agreements, county inspections, and final notices to Lake Crest HOA terminating shared access. It was dusty but solid. They had no claim. None. We weren't on their grid. We weren't in their association. We weren't under their control. And yet here we were, one fake bill away from having seniors hand over pensions and creeps crawling our poles in the dead of night. I looked at Wayne and said, "You know what this means?" He nodded. "It means it's time to go to war." 3 nights after that mess, I woke up at 2:45 in the morning to the sound of my motion sensor chime going off. I figured it was a raccoon, or maybe Wayne drunk checking my porch beer fridge again. But when I checked the camera feed, my stomach dropped. There were 2 men by my electrical box. One was crouched, flashlight in mouth, unscrewing the panel. The other stood lookout near the side gate, checking over his shoulder like he expected trouble. Idiots were dressed like utility workers, orange vests, tool belts, even helmets. But their truck parked a few yards down had no logos, no plates, and definitely no permit tag on the windshield. I grabbed my phone and called 911, Rowan County Dispatch. This is Ray Montgomery at 78 Mill Creek. I've got 2 unauthorized individuals tampering with my electrical service, possibly trespassing, possibly sabotage. Send someone now. Units are en route. Stay inside. Do not engage. That last part was good advice. But I already had my boots on. I didn't go out screaming, I'm not a moron, but I made damn sure they saw the red dot of my floodlight camera tracking their every move. One of them noticed, muttered something, and bolted toward the truck. The other tried to finish whatever he was doing, but I flipped on the backyard lights and stepped outside, shotgun in hand, not aimed, just carried. He froze. That's enough, son, I said. He raised his hand slowly. I could see he was young, maybe 23, 24, nervous as hell. And in over his head, the sound of sirens approached fast, and seconds later, 2 deputies rolled up. Guns weren't drawn, thankfully, but they took control fast. The kid was cuffed, read his rights, and put in the back seat. The other one, gone, sped off in the truck before they could catch him. But, lucky me, the whole thing was on camera. Full high-def footage, face clear, time-stamped, and stored on the cloud. Deputy Taylor, who'd been to my place once before when a neighbor's goat head-butted my HVAC unit, looked like he didn't know whether to be amused or pissed off. You know this guy? He asked, motioning to the kid in the cruiser. Recognize him from a week ago, I said. He was part of that joke security crew Lakecrest sent to block the road. Taylor frowned. They were impersonating utility workers. Sure looks like it. He whistled. That's a felony. You don't say. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said hell yes. I also asked what would happen to the kid. Taylor said probably released pending investigation unless they tied him directly to property damage. He was right. The kid was out the next day, and guess what? The charges were under review. The next morning, I got another envelope taped to my mailbox. Same HOA letterhead, same smug formatting. Subject: failure to secure electrical access point. Apparently, by allowing unauthorized access to my own damn meter box, I had jeopardized grid stability and violated the shared standards of energy safety compliance. They even included a photo of the panel, which they must have taken, and circled the lock as being non-standard. That's when Wayne called. He was already mad. They hit the Garcias too, he said. 2 nights ago. Cut their security feed, tried to patch in some kind of monitor box. Bastards are planting equipment. It was full-blown war now, so we fought smart. Wayne and I installed a second panel, fake, empty, with a spare lock and a GPS tracker hidden inside. We rigged the wiring to spark if someone tried to tap into it, non-lethal, just enough to make them rethink their career choices. And then we waited. Sure enough, 3 nights later, GPS pinged. Our little decoy box had gone mobile. We traced it via a burner phone app all the way to a garage in Lakecrest Reserve, to an address registered under Richard Milton. I don't know if you've ever had the kind of rage that makes your hands cold instead of hot, but I had it then. It wasn't just Karen's HOA sending out bills anymore. It was her damn husband running a fake utility racket under an LLC, using hired punks to intimidate old folks, break into electrical panels, and tap private grids. The name of their little scam, Blue Birch Utility Compliance, sounded official enough to fool a retiree or anyone not willing to push back. But now we had video of the tampering, GPS data leading to their garage, testimony from neighbors, my Duke Energy records, and a camera still catching one of their goons mid-sabotage. We didn't have everything, not yet, but we had enough to make someone sweat. Wayne grinned when we compiled it all. Think they're gonna like it when the sheriff sees this. I'm not aiming for the sheriff, I said. I want the whole damn board of that HOA in a courtroom, squirming. Exactly 1 week after the midnight sabotage attempt, I opened my mailbox to find a bright red envelope stamped urgent, legal notice, just what every working man wants after a long shift. Unsolicited litigation with a cherry on top. Inside was a formal court summons. Plaintiff, Lakecrest Reserve Homeowners Association. Defendants, Raymond Montgomery, Wayne Spencer. Allegations, aggression against designated HOA representatives, property damage to HOA infrastructure, refusal to pay outstanding shared utility obligations, endangering community utility balance, harassment, and intimidation. I didn't know whether to laugh or flip my kitchen table. Wayne came over 10 minutes later, carrying his own copy. They want me barred from contact with any HOA personnel within 100 feet, he said, waving it like a napkin. I don't even live in their jurisdiction. They're testing to see if we'll fold, I muttered. But they picked the wrong damn folder, Wayne replied. That wasn't the end of it. By evening, my phone started buzzing with messages. Apparently, some busybody on Facebook, guess who? Karen's niece, allegedly a community outreach liaison, had posted photos of me and Wayne during the original roadblock incident. She cropped out the part where I was being grabbed and titled the post, "Aggressive man harasses safety workers. Neighbors concerned." The post went semi-viral, not in the internet sense, but enough for the local HOA moms to start clutching pearls and typing in all caps. People who never said 2 words to me in 5 years were now commenting things like, "We need to protect our neighborhood. This guy doesn't belong near families. HOA needs to act." Someone even posted my HVAC company's name and Yelp link, encouraging folks to share concerns about his professionalism. You want to see unprofessional? Let me see your breaker box, sweetheart. At that point, I stopped debating and called my cousin. Jack Montgomery isn't flashy, doesn't wear suits unless someone's dead or elected, but he's got a mind like a steel trap and a degree in constitutional law. He answered the phone with his usual, "Which part of the country's broken now?" "Rowan County," I said, "and it's personal." We met the next morning in his office above an insurance agency. I laid out the paperwork, the fake bills, the camera footage, the GPS data from our trap box. Jack listened without a single interruption, just nodding occasionally, scribbling notes with a dull pencil. When I was done, he leaned back, folded his hands, and said, "They're bluffing, and badly. This HOA is building a case on counterfeit documents and harassment. We're going to return fire." He filed a countersuit within 48 hours. Defendants: Lake Crest Reserve HOA, Karen Milton, Richard Milton, Blue Birch Utility Compliance, et al. Claims: attempted extortion, criminal trespass, unauthorized utility interference, fraudulent billing and impersonation of service workers, emotional distress and reputational damage, retaliatory legal action. We backed it with my contract with Duke Energy, clean and active. Technical inspection reports showing no shared lines. Footage from the Garcia's security system. GPS trace from the stolen decoy meter. Sworn statements from over a dozen residents, including Tommy, the guy who'd been extorted under threat to his oxygen supply. Then came the wild card, a man named Daryl Hayes. He used to work with Lakecrest as a compliance technician, mostly inspecting fences and mailbox heights, until he was fired 8 months ago. Apparently, Karen didn't like that he pushed back on questionable billing expansions. Jack reached out to him and, to everyone's surprise, Daryl agreed to testify. He brought emails, internal notes, even meeting minutes from a closed-door HOA session where they discussed quietly integrating adjacent properties via retroactive billing justification. That line alone was worth its weight in subpoenas. I knew we were onto something when Karen herself emailed me, all faux civility and veiled threats. "Raymond, I'd like to resolve this amicably. Our association values harmony. Let's be reasonable. Escalation only leads to regret." I forwarded it straight to Jack. He replied with a formal notice of intent to pursue full discovery. Meanwhile, the attacks didn't stop. Someone, and I'm guessing it rhymes with Sharon Hilton, filed a noise complaint with the city against my generator, claiming I ran it at all hours. Code enforcement showed up. We had a pleasant little chat. I showed them the battery backups, the soundproof box I built myself, and the logs proving it hadn't even been used since the sabotage attempt. The inspector shook my hand on the way out. "You're cleaner than a chapel pew." But the visit gave me an idea. I sent in a formal request to the City Council, Public Records Act, asking for any pending zoning changes involving Lake Crest Reserve. 3 days later, I got a bombshell in my inbox. Karen had filed a proposal to redraw the zoning lines. The goal was to legally annex my neighborhood into Lake Crest jurisdiction under shared utility corridors and community infrastructure alignment. So it was never just about me. It was a land grab. one slow, silent bulldozer of bureaucracy at a time. By the time our court date got set, we were loaded for bear. Jack had turned my living room into a war room. Whiteboards, labeled folders, 2 laptops humming in sync, a printer constantly spitting out discovery packets. Wayne had appointed himself Director of Strategic Surveillance and installed a full perimeter camera system on 5 houses, including mine. One of our neighbors, Melanie from 2 doors down, even volunteered to be community comms, which mostly meant passing around flyers titled "Know Your Property Rights. Say no to HOA lies." Jack's countersuit hit the courthouse like a grenade. We weren't just responding to Karen's petty nonsense anymore. We were dragging every last one of their dirty dealings into the light. The claim, named Lakecrest Reserve HOA, Karen Milton, President, Richard Milton, owner of Blue Birch Utility Compliance. Blue Birch Utility Compliance, LLC, 3 named HOA board members who had signed off on utility enforcement resolutions. The charges: civil extortion, fraudulent billing, criminal trespass, attempted utility sabotage, harassment, defamation, operating unlicensed security personnel, unauthorized surveillance, retaliatory litigation. We submitted a full digital folder of evidence, time-stamped, notarized, and redundantly backed up in case someone accidentally deleted a file or set fire to their printer. Jack made sure the opening line in our complaint was poetic. This is a case about power, both electrical and political, being abused by those entrusted with neither. Meanwhile, Karen's legal team tried to downplay the situation. They sent a laughable settlement proposal offering to drop the charges against us if I agreed to pay $5,000 in lieu of retroactive utility fees, publicly apologize to HOA board members for disruption and incivility, reconsider formal community integration. Wayne nearly broke my coffee table when he read that one. We should mail them a bag of mulch and label it retainer fee, he growled. Instead, we did one better. We leaked the proposal to the press. Well, Deborah Lentz, the only journalist in Rowan County who still wore shoulder pads and believed in public interest stories. She ran a piece in the local paper titled HOA versus The Working Man, Inside Lakecrest's Shady Power Play, complete with interviews from Tommy, the Garcias, Melanie, and even Daryl, the ex-HOA compliance guy. The day the story hit, Karen's public Facebook page disappeared. So did Blue Birch's business listing. But we weren't done. Wayne and I followed up on a tip from Daryl. He claimed that the HOA board had previously discussed creating a shadow enforcement unit, essentially a private team of compliance officers who would enforce HOA rules outside of HOA territory using ambiguous jurisdiction language. Guess what we found when we started digging through the LLC records of Blue Birch? 6 invoices filed as Service Patrol labor contracts, each signed by Richard Milton and labeled any external grid enforcement. Phase 1. Phase fucking 1. These guys weren't just making this up on the fly. They had a goddamn expansion plan. I handed the docs to Jack. He looked at them and said, "This is RICO-level sloppy. They didn't just violate your rights. They built an illegal system around it." He amended the complaint, added a racketeering angle that upped the ante from a civil squabble to a possible criminal conspiracy to defraud. We even got the county zoning inspector involved. She reviewed the submitted Lakecrest zoning expansion documents and nearly laughed herself out of her office. They filed this without geographical survey, no community approval, and used forged easement maps. Who taught these people land law? A children's cartoon. The cherry on top, a copy of a private email Karen had sent to a contractor, obtained legally through Daryl, where she wrote, "Don't worry about permits. Once we absorb Mill Creek into the HOA formally, everything gets retro-approved." Retro. Approved. Jack forwarded it to the district attorney's office. We weren't just playing defense anymore. We were going for blood. A week before our pre-trial hearing, I got a letter slid under my door. No postage, no return address, just a single typed page that read, "There is still time to resolve this like gentlemen. Escalation serves no one. Consider your family, your career, and the future of your neighborhood. Drop the countersuit. Settle quietly. We walk away. Otherwise, we don't." A concerned party, I held it up to the window. No watermark, standard printer paper, no fingerprints, at least none visible to a working man with calluses, and no CSI kit. But I knew the scent of desperation when it came sliding into my house like a rat. I scanned it, sent it to Jack, and threw the original in a sealed Ziploc. Want to guess how many laws they broke just by delivering that? He asked over the phone. At least 2, I replied, but let's make it 5. HOA wasn't going to stop with paperwork, so we pushed harder. That same afternoon, Wayne and I met with Deborah Lentz again. She was waiting in her car, notebook in one hand, cup of black coffee in the other, like a soldier in a press flak jacket. We gave her everything we had on Blue Birch's expansion plans, including a fresh piece of meat, a contractor's quote for 27 new utility poles, and shared access grid enhancement. All of it scheduled to run through Mill Creek, without any permits. By Friday, her article dropped under the headline, "Power Grab, Rowan HOA's Illegal Utility Empire Grows." This time, local TV picked it up. News vans rolled into the neighborhood like we'd opened a meth lab. Karen must have felt the walls closing in because her attorney reached out directly. Jack read their email aloud to me while chewing a pencil. Our client is open to a confidential settlement. She is willing to cease all HOA utility collection efforts, remove Blue Birch contractors from Mill Creek, and issue a formal apology provided Mr. Ed Montgomery drops his civil countersuit and agrees to non-disparagement. I let that hang for a minute. Non-disparagement? I asked. They want to gag you, Jack said. Shut you up and walk away clean. Hard pass. He grinned. Thought you'd say that. Meanwhile, Karen wasn't done trying to mess with my life outside court. That weekend, I woke up to find 2 code enforcement trucks parked outside. The driver was friendly enough, but he handed me an official citation. Noise violation, again referencing my generator, except this time they included a formal complaint from neighboring community leaders and a witness affidavit claiming I'd been running industrial-grade HVAC equipment overnight. You ever seen a man blink so slowly you wonder if he's rebooting? That was me reading that citation. Wayne came out with his coffee and camera running. We showed the inspectors the generator, locked, boxed, unused. Wayne pulled up noise logs from the monitoring app he installed last month. Not a decibel over legal levels. The inspector sighed, pulled off his sunglasses, and said, "I'm just here to do my job, sir. But off the record, someone's playing games." We added the complaint to our file, but something bigger was brewing. Remember that zoning proposal Karen tried to sneak through? Thanks to the public records request I filed earlier, Jack now had a full copy of her annexation proposal. She wasn't just trying to rope us into HOA fees. She'd already submitted a request to the Rowan County Council to redraw the HOA boundary to include Mill Creek and the surrounding lots based on historical infrastructure usage. The key word was historical. She claimed that since older electrical routes once ran through Lake Crest lands in the 1990s, long before we rerouted and went direct with Duke Energy, we were still culturally integrated into Lake Crest Reserve's infrastructure ecosystem. Culturally integrated. I nearly fell out of my chair reading that one. Jack shook his head, chuckling with that dangerous lawyer look in his eye. She's weaponizing semantics, trying to create a retroactive paper trail to force annexation. And it might have worked, too, if we didn't get another lucky break. Turns out the zoning council chairwoman, Clara Dorsey, grew up on Mill Creek. Her parents had owned one of the now demoed homes where the new Eastern Line was supposed to pass. When she saw our file, especially the forged utility maps and Blue Birch contracts, she asked for a formal ethics review of the annexation proposal. Suddenly, Karen's entire plan was in limbo. Still, we weren't celebrating yet. Wayne put it best while we sipped iced tea on my porch. Rats fight hardest when they know the flood's coming. And the water was rising. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not emotionally, literally. It felt like the AC was stuck on walk-in freezer. Jack said it was a common tactic. Keep people uncomfortable. Makes them sloppy. I was wearing my only decent blazer, one size too small, and Wayne looked like he was about to punch the thermostat out of the wall. Karen Milton walked in like she was hosting a country club fundraiser. Bright white pantsuit, oversized sunglasses inside, and a smug expression you could see from space. Her husband Richard followed behind, paler than the drywall and sweating through his collar before he even sat down. Judge Marlowe entered, 70s, veteran, known for not suffering fools or paperwork sloppiness. He called both sides forward, and the fun began. HOA's attorney, A stiff-suited man with an accent so artificial I could hear the dollar signs in it began with a lecture about community stability, mutual obligation, and the sanctity of infrastructure. Jack countered by dropping a 3-inch thick binder on the bench. "Exhibits A through L, Your Honor," he said. "Fraud, impersonation, attempted annexation, unlicensed contractors, and false legal claims, all perpetrated under the guise of neighborhood compliance." Marlowe raised an eyebrow. "This better not be a soap opera, counselor." "It's worse," Jack said. "It's HOA governance." First came the witnesses. Tommy was up first. Poor guy shuffled to the stand with his oxygen tank, eyes clear, but voice trembling. He told the judge how Blue Birch reps knocked on his door, claimed he owed over $8,000, and threatened power shutoff unless he paid. He handed over the receipt. "That company," he wheezed, "ain't Duke, ain't anyone official. I was scared. That's all." Then came Melanie, who played a voicemail from a compliance officer telling her she'd be legally liable for rejecting an infrastructure review visit. Wayne testified next, cool, direct, and with just enough sarcasm to keep the room awake. "They showed up with clipboards and vest cosplay," he said. "Tried to block the road, grabbed Ray, then got surprised when someone pushed back. Not sorry." Jack introduced the footage. High-def security cam video from the Garcia's house and our own, showing Blue Birch employees tampering with equipment, unscrewing panel covers, even trying to plant monitoring devices. Then came the big reveal, the GPS data. We showed the path of our decoy electric box, how it was lifted off my property and ended up in Richard Milton's garage. The room went quiet when Jack clicked to the slide showing its signal ping inside the HOA president's property. Richard's lawyer objected. Marlowe overruled. "You put a man's breaker box in your garage," the judge said. "I'd say that's relevant." But the final nail came from Darrell Hayes. He took the stand in a wrinkled suit, hands shaking at first, but as he started talking, his voice got stronger. He testified about HOA board meetings where Karen and Richard openly discussed expansion through assumed service justification, gray zone grid claims, and future annexation without vote. He even had printed emails, one of which read, "No need for permits. Once they're under our grid, they're under our rules. The paperwork can come later." Karen tried to object, muttering something about internal miscommunications. The judge shut her down with a glare that could peel paint. "Mrs. Milton," he said, "if you open your mouth again before your counsel does, I'll hold you in contempt." Her lawyer buried his face in his hands. When Jack rested our case, the silence was beautiful. No jury needed, just the judge and the sound of HOA pride being dismantled, one exhibit at a time. Then came the ruling. Judge Marlowe leaned forward, tapping his pen. "I've seen overreaching HOA cases before, but this is egregious. You claimed rights you don't possess. You impersonated utility officials. You created a shell company to extort homeowners. You falsified documents. You used intimidation and misinformation to force private citizens under your authority. Without vote, without consent, and without law." He looked straight at Karen. "This is not just a civil matter. It is potentially criminal. And I am forwarding this entire case to the district attorney." Then the gavel came down. Verdict: all claims against Montgomery and Spencer dismissed with prejudice. Lake Crest Reserve HOA to pay $115,000 in damages and attorney's fees. Blue Birch utility compliance dissolved by court order. Richard Milton and Karen Milton referred for criminal investigation. Permanent injunction issued against HOA enforcement activity outside official boundaries. As we left the courtroom, Wayne clapped me on the back. "You know what this means," he said. I nodded. They don't get to touch this street ever again." 2 months later, the for sale sign went up on the Milton house. They didn't have a choice, really, between legal fees, public disgrace, and the district attorney sniffing around like a bloodhound with a fresh lead. Karen and Richard decided it was better to disappear quietly than hang around for the fireworks. Nobody threw them a going-away party. The HOA board didn't survive much longer either. 3 of the members resigned within a week of the verdict. The rest were ousted in a rare emergency community vote. Lake Crest Reserve went into full PR damage control mode, hiring a consultant to restructure governance practices and rebuild community trust. Translation: please don't sue us again. Meanwhile, things in Mill Creek changed, but not in the way Karen probably wanted. For one, we now had a real neighborhood watch, not the fake kind with clipboards and lanyards. Wayne headed it up unofficially. Folks dropped by his porch in the evenings with reports, updates, or just to shoot the breeze. Kids played in front yards again without anyone citing safety ordinance violations. Tommy's oxygen machine got a proper backup generator, paid for out of the settlement fund. The Garcias had new security cameras installed, courtesy of a group donation. Melanie ran a bake sale and used the proceeds to print pamphlets called HOA Free and Loving It. I still have mine on the fridge. As for me, well, I got a new panel box. Real shiny one, labeled and locked with a camera pointed straight at it. Right above it is a sign that reads, "Notice, this property is independently metered, not affiliated with any HOA. Any tampering will be prosecuted." You'd be surprised how effective that is. Wayne and I still joke about printing shirts that say Blue Birch Compliance, unlicensed and unwelcome, but I think the point's already been made. One night, we were sitting on my porch sipping cold beer, watching the sun go down behind the trees. The neighborhood was quiet, peaceful, like it hadn't been in months. "You ever think they'll try again?" Wayne asked. I considered it. "Nah," I said. "We didn't just win, we embarrassed them." He chuckled. "Yeah, but you know the type. Authority junkies. They always find new HOA hills to die on. Then I hope the next guy they try has a cousin like Jack and a neighbor like you." He raised his bottle. "Here's to the little guy with a big file folder." I clinked it. To be honest, I didn't set out to be a symbol of homeowner resistance. I just wanted to come home from work, crack a beer, and not have some clipboard warrior trying to shake me down like I owed tribute to the HOA gods. But if you push a working man hard enough, tell him he doesn't own what he's earned, threaten his safety, his rights, and his home, you're going to find out exactly how sharp his tools are. And some of us have more than wrenches in our garage.